first story, The Phantom of Harper College. It was a quiet night at Harper College, the kind of quiet that makes you feel like the campus is holding its breath. My name is Daniel Reed, and I'm the night security guard here. Located in a small town in Ohio, Harper College was known for its old brick buildings and a tragic history few dared to speak of. The campus library was my last stop of the night. A massive building, built in the early 1900s, its dim hallways always felt a little too still. As I unlocked the main doors, I felt a cold breeze rush past me. Strange, considering the windows were always closed this time of year. I began my rounds, walking past rows of dusty bookshelves. That's when I heard it, a soft whisper. "Help me." The voice was so faint that I almost convinced myself it was the wind. But then it came again. "Please, help me." I shone my flashlight down the aisles, the beam cutting through the shadows. Nothing. Just books and silence. Still, the feeling of being watched made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. As I turned a corner, my light caught something on the floor. A notebook, its cover worn and faded. I picked it up, and to my shock, the name Ethan Calloway was written on the first page. Ethan was a student who had gone missing 10 years ago after a late-night study session in this very library. I heard footsteps behind me and spun around, but no one was there. The air grew colder, and my breath turned to mist. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a figure emerged from the shadows. He was young, wearing a hoodie and jeans, but his skin was pale as chalk. His eyes were hollow voids, yet they seemed to plead with me. "Ethan?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. The figure nodded slowly. He pointed towards a corner of the library where a trapdoor lay hidden beneath a rug. I had walked past that spot countless times, never noticing it. Summoning every ounce of courage, I lifted the trapdoor. A rotten smell hit me, and my flashlight revealed a narrow staircase leading down. At the bottom, E found a small room with a pile of bones and Ethan's student ID lying on top. He had been trapped here all this time. When I looked back, Ethan was gone, but a sense of peace filled the air. The cold vanished, and the lights stopped flickering. Ethan had finally been found, but the question haunts me to this day. Who or what put him there? And why did they never want him to be discovered? Second story, The Shadows of Evergrove College. It was my first semester at Evergrove College, a prestigious institution hidden deep in the forests of Vermont. I had always dreamed of attending a school like this, but I never imagined the secrets it would hold. The campus was beautiful, with ivy-covered buildings and mist that clung to the ground in the early mornings. Yet there was something off about the place, a strange silence that lingered even when students filled the courtyards. My roommate, Ethan, was a local who grew up hearing the stories about Evergrove. He told me about the Shadow Wing, an abandoned part of the college that had been sealed off for decades. Rumors spoke of disappearances and strange whispers heard at night from behind its locked doors. One night, after a long day of classes, I couldn't sleep. The moonlight streamed through the window, casting long shadows across the floor. I was about to close my eyes when I heard a soft whisper calling my name. Alex. Alex sat up, heart pounding. The sound was coming from outside my door. I opened it hesitantly and peeked into the dimly lit hallway. No one was there, but at the end of the hall, I saw a shadow slip around the corner toward the shadow wing. Curiosity overpowered my fear. I grabbed my phone for light and followed the shadow. The air grew colder with each step, and the silence became deafening. When I reached the sealed doors, they were slightly ajar, as if inviting me inside. The corridor beyond was dark and dusty, with faded paintings hanging crookedly on the walls. I called out, "Hello?" My voice echoed in the emptiness. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me, and my light flickered, casting erratic shadows on the walls. The whispers returned, louder this time, surrounding me from every direction. "Alex, you shouldn't be here." Panicking, I tried to retrace my steps, but the hallways seemed to shift, leading me deeper into the wing. The shadows on the walls moved unnaturally, growing longer and more defined, until they seemed to take on human shapes. One shadow detached itself from the wall and stood before me. Its features indistinct, but its presence undeniably menacing. I froze, unable to move as it reached out with a shadowy hand. "Leave this place," it whispered, its voice like a cold wind in my ears, "or become one of us." With every ounce of courage I could muster, I ran, ignoring the shadows that reached for me and the voices that screamed my name. I found the door, threw it open, and collapsed into the hallway. When I looked back, the shadow wing was silent once more, its doors firmly shut. The next day, I tried to tell Ethan what happened, but he just shook his head. "You should never have gone there, Alex. Not everyone who enters the shadow wing makes it out." To this day, I can still hear the whispers when I close my eyes, and sometimes in the corner of my room. I see a shadow that doesn't belong to anything I can explain. Third story, The Whispers of Cedar Creek. It was a chilly fall afternoon when I first set foot on the campus of Cedar Creek College in Pennsylvania. The trees lining the walkways had turned a brilliant shade of orange and red, their leaves crunching beneath my boots. I was excited to start my semester. But there was an uneasy feeling lingering in the air. The upperclassmen spoke in hushed tones about the east wing of Fairmont Hall, a dormitory that had been abandoned for decades. Legend had it that a student named Evelyn Harris disappeared from her room in the East Wing back in 1975. They said she was last seen scribbling furiously in her journal, muttering about voices coming from the walls. Despite a thorough search by the authorities, she was never found. Being a skeptic, I dismissed the story as an urban legend designed to scare freshmen. But Curiosity got the better of me, and one evening, I decided to sneak into the East Wing with my friend Ryan. Armed with flashlights and a camera, we slipped past the no entry sign and pushed open the creaky door. The air inside was stale and thick with dust. The walls were covered in faded graffiti, and the floor was littered with debris. As we ventured further, a low, whispering sound echoed through the hallway. "Did you hear that?" Ryan whispered. I nodded, my heartbeat quickening. We followed the sound to a room at the end of the hall. The door was slightly ajar, and inside was a desk with an open journal. The pages were covered in chaotic, unreadable scribbles. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind us, and the whispering grew louder. The words were indistinguishable, but the tone was urgent, almost pleading. "Let's get out of here." Ryan yelled, pulling at the door, but it wouldn't budge. I felt a cold hand brush against my neck and spun around, only to see nothing but shadows. Out of nowhere. Out of Nuriwish. Help me. Help me. The next thing I knew, I was waking up on the grass outside Fairmont Hall, Ryan shaking me awake. We both had no memory of how we got out, but the journal was clutched in my hands. Later that night, I flipped through its pages. Among the chaotic scribbles, one phrase stood out. Written over and over, "Don't listen to the whispers." From that day on, I could hear them everywhere I went, and I knew they would never let me go.